The cake was a masterpiece. It wasn't just flour, sugar, and eggs. It was a promise kept. My daughter, Lily, had spent months talking about this specific cake, a 3-tier vanilla bean sponge with raspberry filling, covered in fondant that looked like a galaxy of swirling purples and blues. I had spent 3 nights after work sculpting little edible stars. My back ached, my eyes were tired, but looking at it sitting on the center of my mother's dining room table, I felt that warm, fierce pride that only a mother knows. I checked my watch. 6:30 p.m. We were 30 minutes past the scheduled time for the candles. "He's coming, Lauren. Stop pacing. You're making me dizzy." My mother, Sylvia, snapped from her armchair. She didn't look up from her phone. She was 65, but she dressed like she was 30, and she had the emotional maturity of a teenager. "Mom, Lily is 10 today. 10. The ice cream is melting," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Ethan knows what time the party started." "He's busy. He has important meetings." Mom dismissed me with a wave of her manicured hand. Important meetings? I almost laughed. My brother Ethan was 42 years old. He hadn't held a steady job in 6 years. His meetings usually involved online poker or vague investment opportunities that always ended with me writing a check to cover his rent so he wouldn't be evicted. Again. I looked over at Lily. She was sitting on the sofa next to Grandpa Arthur, my father. He was the only reason we were holding the party here instead of at my place. He had been frail lately, recovering from a bout of pneumonia, and traveling was hard for him. He sat silently, his hands resting on his cane, listening to Lily chatter about her piano lessons. His eyes were cloudy, but they were kind. He was the quiet in the storm of this family. The front door banged open. "The party has arrived!" Ethan bellowed. He stumbled slightly as he crossed the threshold. The smell of stale beer and expensive cologne hit me before he even reached the dining room. He wasn't wearing a suit for a meeting. He was wearing a wrinkled polo shirt and jeans. "Finally," Mom beamed, instantly transforming from irritated matriarch to doting mother. She stood up to hug him. "My baby is here." "Are you hungry, sweetie?" "Starving," Ethan grinned, ignoring me completely. He walked over to Lily, who stiffened. "Happy birthday, Squirt. Double digits, huh?" "Hi, Uncle Ethan," Lily said politely. She was a good kid. Better than they deserved. "Okay, let's do this cake thing. I've got places to be," Ethan announced, clapping his hands. I gritted my teeth. "Go wash your hands, Ethan. We'll light the candles." I lit the 10 candles. The tiny flames danced against the galaxy fondant. Everyone gathered around. I started singing Happy Birthday, my voice shaking slightly with emotion. Grandpa hummed along. Mom sang loudly, but her eyes were on Ethan, not Lily. Lily closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and leaned in to make her wish. It was that perfect, suspended moment of childhood magic. And then Ethan's hand shot out. He grabbed the back of Lily's head and shoved. Hard. It wasn't a playful tap. It was a forceful, aggressive thrust. Lily's face smashed into the cake. The structure collapsed. I heard the sickening sound of frosting squelching and the heavy thud of her forehead hitting the table beneath the layers. Silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. Then Lily screamed. It was a sound of pure terror and pain. She pulled back, gasping. Her face was covered in purple fondant and cream, but what terrified me was the red smear near her eye, where the hot wax of a candle had burned her, or maybe the wick had scratched her. She was clawing at her eyes, sobbing, hyperventilating. "Oh my God!" I lunged forward, grabbing a napkin, my hands shaking uncontrollably. "Lily! Lily, look at Mommy!" And then I heard it. Laughter. Ethan was laughing. He was doubled over, clutching his stomach. "Boom! Direct hit! You should have seen your face, kid." I spun around, blind with rage. Are you insane? You hurt her. There were burning candles on that cake. Relax, Lauren, Ethan wheezed, wiping a tear from his eye. It's a tradition. It's funny. Toughen her up a little. I looked at my mother. Surely she would see this. Surely seeing her granddaughter crying, shaking, covered in ruined cake and a burn mark, she would step in. Mom rolled her eyes. She actually rolled her eyes at me. Stop being so dramatic, Lauren, Mom sighed, pouring herself a glass of wine. It's just a joke. Ethan was just playing. Don't ruin the mood. It's just cake. We can buy a sheet cake from the grocery store. Just cake? I whispered. My voice felt foreign, like it was coming from someone else. I spent 3 days making that. Lily waited all year for this, and he assaulted her. Assaulted? Mom scoffed. God, you're hysterical. This is why no man stays with you. You take everything so seriously. Ethan grabbed a chunk of the smashed cake from the table and shoved it into his mouth. Delicious, though. A little too sweet. Next time, less sugar, sis. I stood there, trembling. I looked at my daughter, who was trying to wipe the frosting from her eyes, her little shoulders shaking with sobs. I looked at my brother, licking his fingers with a smirk of pure entitlement. I looked at my mother, who was looking at Ethan with adoration, completely indifferent to the trauma happening in front of her. I felt something inside me break. It wasn't a snap. It was a shattering. The illusion of family, the obligation of being the good daughter, the years of paying their bills and swallowing their insults, it all shattered right there on the dining room floor. But before I could scream, before I could flip the table, a sound cut through the room. Bam! It was a heavy, metallic sound, hard and final. We all turned. Grandpa Arthur had stood up. He was leaning heavily on the table with one hand. In the other hand, he held his heavy gold signet ring, the one with the family crest, the one he never took off. He had slammed it onto the mahogany surface with enough force to dent the wood. The room went dead silent. Ethan stopped chewing. Mom froze with her wineglass halfway to her mouth. Grandpa didn't look at me. He didn't look at Lily. His steel gray eyes were locked onto Ethan. "The party," Grandpa said, his voice low but rumbling like distant thunder, "is over." Thank you so much for being here and listening to my story. Does Ethan's cruelty make your blood boil as much as it did mine? I want to know where you are watching from. Please leave a comment below with your city or state. Let me know I'm not alone in this. The silence that followed Grandpa's declaration was heavier than the air before a tornado. My father, Arthur, was a man of few words. For the past 5 years, since his health declined, he had become almost invisible in his own house. Mom ran the show, talking over him, making decisions for him, treating him like a piece of furniture that occasionally needed dusting. Ethan treated him with a patronizing faux respect, calling him big guy while waiting for him to die so he could inherit. But in that moment, the frail old man was gone. In his place stood the man who had built a construction empire from a single pickup truck, the man who had commanded job sites of 200 men. "Dad, don't be silly," Mom said, her laugh nervous and high-pitched. "We haven't even opened presents. Ethan was just having a little fun. You know how boys are." "Boys?" Grandpa turned his head slowly to look at Mom. "He is 42 years old, Sylvia. He's not a boy. He is a bully." Ethan's face flushed red. His ego was as fragile as spun sugar. "Whoa, hold on, Grandpa. Let's not get personal. It was a prank. Lauren needs to learn to take a joke." "And you," Grandpa interrupted, his voice rising, "need to learn that you are a guest in this house, and a very unwelcome one at this moment." "A guest?" Ethan scoffed, crossing his arms. "This is Mom's house. I'm family." Grandpa picked up the gold ring from the table. He slid it slowly back onto his finger. The friction of the metal against his skin seemed to be the only sound in the universe. "Lauren," Grandpa said. He didn't look at me. His eyes were still drilling into Ethan. "Take your daughter. Take her to the bathroom. Wash her face. Then pack your things and take her home." "But, Dad," Mom started to protest. "Quiet," Grandpa snapped. It wasn't a shout. It was a command. Mom's mouth snapped shut. I had never seen her look at him with fear before. Annoyance, yes. Pity, yes. But never fear. I grabbed Lily's hand. "Come on, baby. Let's get you cleaned up." As I led a sobbing Lily towards the hallway, I heard Ethan mutter, "Unbelievable. Ruining the whole night over a stupid cake." I paused. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to turn around and tear into him, to scream about the disrespect, the cruelty, the money I had lent him last week for his car repair that clearly went to booze. "Smile, Ethan," Grandpa said. His voice was terrifyingly calm. I looked back. Grandpa was leaning forward, both hands on his cane now, his knuckles white. "What?" Ethan blinked, confused. "Smile," Grandpa repeated. "Laugh. Do it loud, because I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember how funny you thought it was to humiliate a child." "You're being weird, old man," Ethan sneered, though he took a step back. "This is the last time," Grandpa said, pronouncing each word with surgical precision. "The last time I will ever see you laugh in this house. Mark my words." "Arthur, stop it!" Mom cried out, rushing to Ethan's side as if to protect him from the words. "You're upsetting him, his blood pressure." "Get out," Grandpa whispered. "We are leaving," Mom yelled at me, glaring at my back. "Lauren, you've caused enough drama for one night. Just leave." "No," Grandpa said. "Not Lauren. Him." He pointed a shaking finger at Ethan. "And if you side with him, Sylvia, you can go to the guest room and stay there until you remember how to be a grandmother." The atmosphere in the room shifted. It was electric, dangerous. I rushed Lily into the bathroom. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely turn on the tap. I wet a washcloth with warm water. "Mommy," Lily hiccuped, "did I do something bad? Why is Uncle Ethan mad?" My heart broke into a million pieces. "No, baby, no. You did nothing wrong. Uncle Ethan is a bad person, and we aren't going to see him for a very long time." I wiped the sticky purple frosting from her eyelashes. The red mark near her eye was swelling, a small welt where the candle had pressed against her skin. It wasn't a serious burn, thank God, but it was a mark, a brand of their cruelty. "It hurts," she whimpered. "I know, baby, I know." I kissed her forehead, right next to the welt. I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a woman who looked exhausted. I saw a woman who had spent 10 years trying to buy her family's love with obedience and financial support. I saw a doormat. But as I looked closer, beneath the tiredness, I saw something else igniting. It was the same fire I had seen in Grandpa Arthur's eyes. They had hurt my child. They had laughed. And Mom had chosen him. Again. She always chose him. I dried Lily's face. "We're going, sweetie. We're going to get the best pizza in the world, and we're going to watch movies in bed, okay?" "Okay," she sniffled. We walked out of the bathroom. I didn't go back to the dining room to say goodbye. I didn't clean up the smashed cake. I didn't offer to help Mom with the dishes. For the first time in my life, I walked straight to the front door, bypassing the chaos. As I opened the door to the cool evening air, I heard Mom's voice screeching from the dining room. "You can't talk to him like that. He's your son. He needs our support." And then Grandpa's voice, lower but cutting through the noise. "He needs a reality check, and so do you, Sylvia." I slammed the front door shut, severing the connection. I buckled Lily into the car, my hands finally steady. I wasn't just leaving a party. I was leaving a lifetime of manipulation. And as I drove away, seeing the lights of the house I paid the mortgage on, fade in the rearview mirror, I knew one thing for certain. War had just been declared, and they had no idea who they were fighting. The drive to the hotel was a blur. I couldn't go back to my apartment. Ethan had a spare key, and knowing him, he'd be waiting there to talk some sense into me, which meant raiding my fridge and demanding an apology. I checked us into a suite at the Marriott downtown. It was expensive, but I didn't care. I needed walls, security, and distance. Lily fell asleep almost instantly, worn out by the crying and the emotional whiplash. I lay next to her, listening to her breathing, staring at the ceiling. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. I reached for my purse and pulled out my notebook. I was a CFO for a mid-sized logistics company. My entire life was built on spreadsheets, risk assessments, and bottom lines. Why hadn't I applied that same logic to my family? I turned to a fresh page. At the top, I wrote, "The cost of love." I began to list it. All of it. The mortgage. My parents' house. Technically, Mom and Grandpa lived there, but 4 years ago, Mom claimed they were behind on payments because of Grandpa's medical bills. I took over the mortgage. $2,800 a month. Ethan's loans. $5,000 for his startup, a dropshipping business that never shipped anything. $3,500 for his DUI lawyer last year. $1,200 for rent on his apartment 2 months ago. $500 here, $200 there for groceries, booze, and gambling. Mom's car, the Lexus lease, $650 a month. She said she needed a reliable car to drive Grandpa to appointments. In reality, she used it to drive to lunch with her friends while I took time off work to take Grandpa to the doctor. The credit card. I had given Mom a supplementary card on my account for emergencies only. I pulled up the banking app on my phone. My thumb hovered over the screen. I hadn't checked the statement in 2 weeks because I was so busy with the quarter-end close at work. I tapped the app. The numbers loaded. I gasped, sitting up in bed. Balance, $8,450. In 2 weeks? I scrolled through the transactions. Sephora, $450. Liquor World, $200. Online casino, linked via PayPal, $500. Online casino, $500. Online casino, $1,000. Ethan. Mom had given Ethan my credit card, or she was gambling herself. Either way, they were bleeding me dry. While I worked 60-hour weeks, missing Lily's soccer games, missing my own life, they were literally gambling away my daughter's college fund. This wasn't family. This was a parasite. The tears I expected to cry didn't come. Instead, a numbness settled over me. It was the feeling of a limb that had been asleep waking up, that sharp, prickly pain before function returns. I remembered the look on Mom's face when Lily screamed, the annoyance, the eye roll. She doesn't love us, I realized. It was a thought so heavy it threatened to crush me, but I forced myself to hold it. She loves the lifestyle I provide. She loves Ethan because he is a reflection of her own narcissism. But she doesn't love me, and she certainly doesn't protect Lily. I looked at my sleeping daughter. Her cheek was slightly puffy. Never again, I whispered into the dark hotel room. I picked up my phone. It was 11:30 p.m. Step 1. The bleeding stops now. I opened the banking app. I selected the supplementary card ending in 4098. Mom's card. Freeze card. Confirm? Yes. Next, the mortgage. The account was set to auto-draft from my savings every month. Cancel autopay. I knew the legal ramifications. The house was in Grandpa's name, but Mom had power of attorney, or so she claimed. I needed to verify that. If I stopped paying, the bank would foreclose. Good. Let them deal with reality. Then I went to my contacts. I scrolled down to Ethan. Block contact. I scrolled to Mom. My finger hovered. Blocking my mother felt like a sin against nature. It felt like violating a commandment. Honor thy father and thy mother. But what about the commandment to not steal, to not covet, to not hurt a child? I didn't block her, not yet. I needed her to panic. I needed her to show her hand. I set her notifications to do not disturb. I opened my email and composed a message to Mr. Henderson. He was Grandpa's old lawyer, a man who had known me since I was in pigtails. He had handled Grandpa's estate planning years ago, before Mom took over. Subject: urgent, review of Arthur's estate and POA. Dear Mr. Henderson, I need to meet with you immediately regarding my father's assets and the current power of attorney status. There has been an incident. I suspect financial abuse and misappropriation of funds. I am bringing receipts. Please fit me in tomorrow. It is an emergency. I hit send. I got out of bed and walked to the window. The city lights of Seattle sprawled out below me. For years, I had been the dutiful daughter, the provider, the fixer. I thought that if I just paid enough, did enough, achieved enough, they would finally value me. I was wrong. You cannot buy respect from people who profit from your low self-esteem. I wasn't the fixer anymore. I was the demolition crew. I went back to bed and hugged Lily from behind. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and faintly of vanilla frosting. I buried my face in her hair. I've got you, I whispered. Mommy is awake now. Morning came with a violent vibration. My phone, which I had left on the nightstand, was dancing across the wood surface like a possessed object. 7 a.m. I picked it up. 14 missed calls from Mom, 3 voicemails, 22 text messages. I sat up, my head pounding slightly from lack of sleep, but my mind was razor sharp. I motioned for Lily to keep watching cartoons. I had ordered room service pancakes to distract her, and I went into the bathroom to listen. I played the first voicemail. Lauren, why is my card declined? I'm at the gas station and I look like an idiot. The attendant is staring at me. Fix this immediately. You probably forgot to pay the bill again. You're so scattered lately. I snorted. I was scattered? Second voicemail, 7:15 a.m. Lauren, pick up the phone. Ethan needs to pay his mechanic and the card isn't working. He's stranded. How can you be so irresponsible? After the drama you caused last night, the least you can do is make sure the finances are in order. Call me. Third voicemail, 7:45 a.m. Okay, now I'm worried. Are you doing this on purpose? Because if you are, it's cruel. You're punishing your brother because of an accident. He's depressed, Lauren. He's really down today. He feels terrible about the cake, and now you're cutting him off? You're kicking a man when he's down. That's not how I raised you. The manipulation was breathtaking. It was a masterclass. In 3 messages, she had gone from blaming my competence, you forgot to pay, to creating a crisis, he's stranded, to claiming moral high ground, he's depressed, that's not how I raised you. I opened the texts. They were a stream of consciousness of rage. Mom, you are being petty. Mom, Dad is asking for you, but I told him you're busy sulking. Mom, Lily needs her family. Don't alienate her from us just because you can't take a joke. Mom, turn the card back on. I need to buy groceries for your father. Do you want him to starve? That last one made me pause. Do you want him to starve? Using Grandpa as a human shield. Typical. I typed a reply. I kept it clinical. No emotion, no defense. Me. The card is canceled. It will not be turned back on. The unauthorized gambling charges totaling $2,500 have been reported as fraud. If Ethan uses it again, the bank will press charges. I suggest you tell him. I hit send. The response was immediate. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. She was typing furiously. Mom, how dare you? He didn't steal. I gave him permission. It was a loan. You are ruining this family over money? You earn plenty. You're greedy, Lauren, just like your father's sister, cold and greedy. I didn't reply. I blocked her number for the next few hours. I needed silence for what came next. Mom? Lily stood at the bathroom door, holding a piece of bacon. Are we going to school today? I looked at her. Her eye was less swollen, but the bruise was turning a sickly yellow purple. No, sweetie. Today is a mental health day, and Mommy has a very important meeting. I dropped Lily off at her best friend's house. I had called Sarah, the other mom, and explained a sanitized version of events, family emergency. Sarah, being a saint, took her in without question. Then I drove to the law offices of Henderson, Tate and Associates. The drive gave me time to think about the gaslighting. For years, they had made me question my own reality. When I said they spent too much, they called me stingy. When I said they were hurtful, they called me sensitive. When I achieved something great at work, they asked why I wasn't married yet. They had constructed a reality where I was simply a resource to be mined, flawed but useful. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. I was wearing my best charcoal suit. My hair was pulled back in a severe bun. I wasn't the sensitive daughter today. I was the CFO. I was the woman who negotiated contracts with international shipping conglomerates. Why had I never brought her home? I parked the car, my phone buzzed, a notification from my bank. Attempted charge, $400 at Lucky Strike Casino. Declined. Ethan was trying to use the card again. He didn't believe I would actually do it. He thought it was a bluff. I smiled, a cold, humorless smile. Go ahead, Ethan, I whispered. Keep digging. I grabbed my briefcase, filled with bank statements, mortgage deeds, and the printed text messages. I walked into the building. It was time to find out who actually owned the ground we were standing on. Mr. Henderson's office smelled like old paper, mahogany, and expensive scotch, the scent of old money and serious business. He was a man in his late 70s, with tufts of white hair and oversized glasses that magnified his shrewd, intelligent eyes. He had been Grandpa's lawyer for 40 years. He stood up when I entered, bypassing the handshake to offer me a seat. Lauren, he said, his voice grave, your email was disturbing. Arthur, your father, how is he? He's lucid, I said, sitting down and placing my briefcase on the desk. More lucid than my mother would like everyone to believe. But he is trapped in that house, Mr. Henderson, and I believe my mother and brother are draining the estate. I didn't waste time. I opened the briefcase and laid out the receipts. This is the credit card statement. I slid the paper across the polished wood. My mother claims these charges are for household expenses. As you can see, Golden Palace Online Casino is not a grocery store. Henderson adjusted his glasses, scanning the document. He frowned. And the mortgage? I've been paying it for 4 years, I explained. Mom told me there was no money in the trust to cover it. She said if I didn't pay, they would lose the house. Henderson stopped reading. He looked up at me, his expression unreadable. Slowly, he took off his glasses. Lauren, he said softly, the trust generates $15,000 a month in passive income from the commercial properties your father owns in downtown. The house is paid off. There hasn't been a mortgage on that property since 1998. The room spun. Excuse me? I choked out. I pay $2,800 a month to the bank. I have the account number. I send the wire transfer. Henderson swiveled his chair to his computer. He typed rapidly. "Let me check the account you are sending money to." He gestured for me to read him the numbers. I read them out from my phone. Henderson hit enter. He stared at the screen for a long moment, then turned the monitor towards me. "That is not a mortgage account, Lauren. That is a private holding LLC called ENS Ventures. It was opened 4 years ago." E.S. Ethan and Sylvia. The air left my lungs. They set up a fake company?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "To trick me into paying them rent on a house my father already owns?" "It appears so," Henderson said, his voice tight with professional anger. "And if they told you it was for a mortgage, that is fraud. Grand larceny, given the amount over 4 years. That's over $130,000 you've paid them." I felt sick, physically sick. I grabbed the trash can next to the desk and dry heaved. They hadn't just used me. They had conned me, my own mother. She watched me work late nights. She watched me skip vacations to save money. And all the while, she was cashing my checks into a slush fund for her and Ethan. "There's more," Henderson said, handing me a tissue. "I did a background check on Ethan this morning after getting your email. Standard procedure when potential elder abuse is involved." He slid a file folder across the desk. I opened it. Ethan Miller. Gambling debts, $45,000 outstanding. Lien on property, attempted. He tried to take a second mortgage out on the house 6 months ago, Henderson explained. The bank denied it because the title is in the trust's name, not your mother's personal name. He forged Arthur's signature, but the notary caught it. They are desperate, I realized. That's why they need my money. They are drowning. Precisely, Henderson nodded. And now that you've cut off the credit card, they will become dangerous. Desperate people do desperate things. He leaned forward. "Lauren, your father came to see me 6 months ago. He had his neighbor drive him. Your mother didn't know." My head snapped up. "Grandpa was here?" "Yes." "He knows, Lauren. Maybe not about the fake mortgage, but he knows they are stealing. He knows Ethan is waiting for him to die." Henderson opened a safe behind his desk and pulled out a thick document bound in blue paper. "He changed the trust," Henderson said. "Previously, upon his death, the estate was to be split 50-50 between you and your mother, with Ethan receiving a stipend managed by your mother." He placed the document in front of me. "This is the new directive, effective immediately upon his incapacitation or death. It names a single trustee and sole beneficiary of the entire estate, the properties, the cash, the house." I looked at the name on the paper. Lauren Elizabeth Miller. "He left it all to you," Henderson said, "every dime. With a specific clause that Ethan and Sylvia are to receive nothing if there is any evidence of coercion or abuse." I stared at the paper. Grandpa Arthur, the quiet man in the corner, had been planning this. He had seen everything. He had been protecting me the only way he could, by giving me the ultimate weapon. "Does Mom know?" I asked. "No," Henderson smiled, a shark-like grin. "And we aren't going to tell her. Not yet. We are going to let them hang themselves." "So what do I do?" I asked, my shock turning into a cold, strategic resolve. "You go back to work," Henderson said. "You let them panic. You document everything, every text, every threat. And when they make their move, and they will, we will be ready to drop the hammer." I stood up. I felt lighter, taller. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the CEO of this family now. "Thank you, Mr. Henderson." "Oh, and Lauren," he called out as I reached the door, "happy belated birthday to Lily. Tell her Grandpa Arthur has a special present coming for her." I walked out of that office into the bright Seattle sun. My phone buzzed again. Ethan, you think you're smart? You have no idea who you're messing with. Fix the card or I'm coming to your office. I looked at the text. Come on then, I thought. Walk right into the trap. I went to my office. I needed normalcy. I needed to be surrounded by sane people who spoke the language of logic. My assistant, Jessica, looked at me with concern when I walked in. Rough morning? She asked, handing me a coffee. You have no idea, I muttered. Jess, if a man named Ethan or a woman named Sylvia calls or shows up, I need security on standby. Do not let them up without alerting me first. Jessica's eyes widened. Family? Not anymore. I tried to focus on the quarterly budget reports, but my mind kept drifting to the ENS Ventures revelation. $130,000. That was a down payment on a house for me and Lily. That was her college tuition. Stolen. Around 2 p.m., the intercom buzzed. Lauren, the receptionist's voice was shaky. There's a gentleman here. He says he's your brother. He's causing a scene in the lobby. My stomach dropped. He actually came. I'll be right down, I said. Call security, but tell them to wait in the wings. I want to handle this. I grabbed my phone and set it to record. I slipped it into the front pocket of my blazer, the camera lens peeking out just enough. I took the elevator down. The lobby of our building was glass and marble, echoing every sound. Ethan was standing near the reception desk. He looked manic. His hair was disheveled, and he was pacing aggressively. People were staring. Clients, colleagues. There she is, Ethan shouted when the elevator doors opened. He pointed a finger at me. The Ice Queen herself. I walked towards him, keeping my distance. Ethan, get out, now. Not until you give me what's mine, he yelled, his voice echoing off the marble. You think you can just cut us off after everything Mom did for you? Lower your voice, I said calmly. You are embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself? He laughed, a high, unstable sound. You're the one who abandons her family. You're the one leaving your sick father to rot without food because you're too cheap to pay the bills. He was playing the audience. I saw people whispering, is that true? Does she abuse her father? The card was canceled because of gambling charges, Ethan, I said loud enough for the receptionist to hear. And the mortgage payments, or should I say, the payments to E&S Ventures, have stopped. Ethan's face went pale for a split second, but he recovered quickly. He stepped closer, invading my personal space. I smelled the alcohol on his breath. It was 2 p.m. You listen to me, he hissed, low enough so only I could hear. You turn that money back on. I need $50,000 by Friday, or I'm going to ruin you. Is that a threat? I asked, angling my chest so the phone in my pocket would catch his audio clearly. It's a promise, he sneered. I'll post everything online. I'll tell everyone you hit Lily. I'll tell everyone you're mentally unstable. I'll file for custody of Lily on Mom's behalf. We'll take her away from you. The world stopped. Custody. He had crossed the final line. Threatening my money was one thing. Threatening my child was an act of war. You want $50,000? I asked, my voice deadly quiet. Cash, by Friday, or Child Protective Services gets a call about the bruises on Lily. Who knows where they came from? Maybe her unstable mother? He smiled. It was the same smile he had when he smashed Lily's face into the cake. The smile of a predator playing with food. I took a deep breath. I had the recording. I had the extortion. Security! I raised my voice. 2 large guards in uniform stepped out from the hallway. They had been waiting. Escort this man off the premises, I ordered. And if he returns, call the police for trespassing and harassment. "You can't do this," Ethan screamed as the guards grabbed his arms. "I'm her brother. She owes me. She owes me." They dragged him out the revolving doors. He was kicking and screaming like a toddler. I stood in the lobby, shaking. Not from fear, from rage. He threatened to frame me for abuse. He threatened to take Lily. I pulled the phone out of my pocket. I stopped the recording. File saved. I looked at the receptionist, who was looking at me with wide eyes. "I apologize for the disruption, Sarah," I said, smoothing my blazer. "That won't happen again." I went back up to my office. I sat down at my desk and forwarded the audio file to Mr. Henderson. Message: he just demanded $50,000 blackmail and threatened to frame me for child abuse. Audio attached. Henderson replied instantly. Message: received. Do not engage. We have him on extortion. Stay safe. My phone buzzed again. A notification from Facebook. Ethan Miller tagged you in a post. I opened it. It was a photo of Mom crying. Fake crying, I knew that face. The caption read, "Heartbroken. My sister Lauren Miller, CFO at company name, has kicked our sick parents out of their home and cut off their medical funds. She abuses her own daughter, and now she's abusing our elderly father. Please share. The world needs to know what kind of monster she is." It had 50 shares already. Comments were rolling in. "Oh my God, that's horrible. Boycott her company. Call the police." He had pulled the trigger. He thought he had nuked my reputation. I looked at the screen. I felt a strange sense of calm. "Okay, Ethan," I said to the empty room. "You want to play the social media game? Let's play." I opened my laptop. I found the file named Lily_birthday_cake_incident.mp4. It was the video from the security camera in Mom's dining room, a Nest Cam I had installed years ago to check on Grandpa, which Mom had forgotten about. It had captured everything. The smash, the laughter, "it's just a joke." Grandpa's ring slam. I drafted my own post. "Thank you, you wonderful, patient audience, for sticking with me this far. Your support is the fuel I need to tell you how Lauren destroys him in the next part. Comment 1 and let's keep going." Ethan's post was gaining traction. My phone was lighting up with notifications from concerned friends, confused colleagues, and random internet trolls calling me a parent abuser. I saw a comment from one of my biggest clients. "Lauren, is this true?" Panic flared in my chest for a second. This is how people get canceled. This is how careers are destroyed in an afternoon. But then I remembered the receipts. Truth is a lion. You don't have to defend it. You just have to let it loose. I didn't reply to the comments. I didn't engage in a defensive argument. I simply uploaded the video. Caption: My brother claims I am abusive. He claims I abandoned my family. Here is the unedited security footage from my daughter's 10th birthday party 2 nights ago. Here is my brother playing with a child. Here is my mother cheering him on. And here is my father, the man they claim I am neglecting, kicking them out. Watch until the end. Turn the sound up. I hit post. I sat back and watched the counter. 1 view, 10 views, 100 views, 1,000 views. The internet is a volatile beast, but it has one rule. It hates child bullies. The video was undeniable. The sound of Lily's head hitting the table was sickeningly loud. The visual of Ethan laughing while a child screamed was monstrous. And Grandpa? Grandpa looked like an avenging angel. The comments on Ethan's post stopped. Then they started disappearing. He was deleting them. But on my post, the tide had turned. Oh my God, that monster! He shoved her face into burning candles? Look at the mom just drinking wine. She's enabling him. That grandpa is a hero. The party is over. Chills. Then I posted the second piece of evidence, A screenshot of the text messages from Mom calling me greedy, followed by the bank statement highlighting the online casino charges. Caption: they claim I cut off medical funds. The truth? I cut off the credit card they were using to gamble online. $2,500 in 2 weeks while I paid their mortgage on a house that was already paid off. Boom. My phone rang. It was Mom. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again and again. Finally, I picked up. I put it on speaker. "Lauren!" Mom sounded hysterical. Real hysteria this time, not the fake performance. Take it down right now. Ethan is getting death threats. People are calling our house phone." "Hello, Mother," I said calmly. "You are ruining us. How could you post that video? You violated our privacy." "You posted about me first," I reminded her. "You tried to destroy my career. You tried to frame me for abuse. I just showed the truth." "Ethan is crying. He's afraid to leave the house." "Good," I said. "He should be." "We will sue you. We will sue you for defamation." "Truth is an absolute defense against defamation, Mom. You know that. And speaking of suing, I spoke to Mr. Henderson today." Silence on the other end. The mention of the lawyer's name was like a bucket of ice water. "He told me about ENS Ventures," I said. "He told me about the fake mortgage payments. Do you know that's a felony, Mom? Fraud? Embezzlement?" She stammered. "It was just, we were holding it for you. It was savings." "Don't lie to me. Not anymore. I have the casino receipts. I have the background check on Ethan's debts." "Lauren, please," her voice cracked. She switched tactics instantly. The victim. "We are family. You can't send your brother to jail. You can't send your mother to jail. We're all we have." "No," I said, feeling a tear slide down my cheek, not from sadness, but from the relief of finally saying it. "I have Lily, and I have Grandpa." "You chose Ethan. You always chose Ethan. Now you can live with him." "We have nothing," she sobbed. "The accounts are empty." "Then maybe Ethan should get a job," I said. "Goodbye, Mom." I hung up. I felt a vibration in the floor. I looked up. My office staff was standing outside my glass door. Jessica was there, the receptionist, even the VP of sales. They had seen the post. Jessica opened the door slowly. "Lauren, we saw the video, the one you posted." I braced myself. "Is Lily okay?" she asked, her eyes cheering up. God, Lauren, I'm so sorry." "She's okay," I said, my voice softening. "She's safe." "Your grandfather is a badass," the VP of sales said, grinning. "Excuse my language, but that ring slam, legendary." I smiled, a real smile. "Yeah, he is." But it wasn't over. I knew Ethan. He was a cornered rat, and cornered rats bite. An hour later, I got an email. Not from Ethan, but from a lawyer, a cheap strip mall lawyer, judging by the letterhead. Notice of intent to sue, custody and conservatorship. Plaintiff, Ethan Miller, on behalf of Arthur Miller. Claim, Lauren Miller is exerting undue influence over a senile elder, Arthur, and is unfit to be a guardian. They were going after Grandpa. They were going to try to prove he was mentally incompetent so they could seize control of the trust before he died. I called Henderson. "They took the bait," Henderson said, sounding satisfied. "They filed for emergency conservatorship. They want a hearing on Friday." "Is Grandpa ready?" I asked. "Arthur?" Henderson chuckled. "He's been waiting for this fight for 10 years. But Lauren, we need to lure them out completely. We need them to admit, on record, that they only care about the money." "How?" "We're going to run a little play," Henderson said, "the hospital trap." The plan was simple, cruel, and necessary. On Thursday morning, I posted an update on Facebook, just text on a black background. "Please pray for Grandpa. Rush to St. Jude's Hospital. It doesn't look good." It was a lie. Grandpa was actually sitting in a private room at St. Jude's, fully dressed, eating Jell-O and watching The Price is Right. Henderson had pulled some strings with the hospital administration. He was on the donor board to use a room for a family mediation. I sat in the chair next to the bed. Grandpa looked at me. "Do I look dying enough?" he asked, winking. "You look too healthy, actually," I said, fixing his collar. "Remember, when they come in, you're confused. You're weak." "I know the drill," he grunted. "I used to negotiate contracts with the mob in the 80s. I can handle my idiot son." At 10 a.m., the door flew open. Ethan and Mom burst in. They didn't look sad. They looked frantic. "Where is he?" Mom demanded, rushing to the bedside. "Dad? Daddy?" Grandpa closed his eyes and let out a wheezing breath. "Sylvia?" "I'm here, Daddy." She grabbed his hand. "Oh, God, is he going?" She looked at me, her eyes sharp. "Did he sign anything? Did you make him sign anything before he got sick?" "He's resting, Mom," I said, standing up. "The doctors say it's his heart." Ethan ignored Grandpa completely. He was scanning the room. He picked up the clipboard at the end of the bed. "Where are his personal effects?" Ethan asked me. "His wallet? His keys?" "Why do you need his keys, Ethan?" I asked. "We need to secure the house," Ethan snapped. "If he kicks the bucket, we need to make sure you don't loot the place." "He's not dead yet, you ghoul," I said. "He's basically gone." Ethan waved a hand at Grandpa, who was putting on an Oscar-worthy performance of shallow breathing. "Look, Lauren, let's cut the crap. We know you're trying to maneuver the inheritance, but we filed the papers. I'm his conservator as of this morning's filing." "That hasn't been granted yet," I said. "It will be," Ethan smirked. "We told the judge he's senile and you're abusive." "We're going to put him in a home, a nice one, don't worry, and we're going to manage the estate properly." "Properly?" I laughed dryly. "Like you managed your gambling debts?" Ethan's face darkened. "I'm going to enjoy evicting you from my life. Now, where is the safe deposit key? Mom said he keeps it on a chain." Ethan reached for Grandpa's neck. He was actually going to search a dying man's body for a key. That was it. Grandpa's eyes snapped open. The wheezing stopped. His hand shot out and grabbed Ethan's wrist. His grip was like iron. Ethan yelped, "What the?" Grandpa sat up. He wasn't shaking. He wasn't confused. He swung his legs over the side of the bed and stood up, towering over Ethan, who was cowering back. "You," Grandpa growled, his voice strong and clear, "are not touching my keys. You are not touching my house, and you are certainly not touching my money." "Dad?" Mom gasped, stepping back. You're okay?" "I'm better than okay, Sylvia," Grandpa said, smoothing his hospital gown. "I'm awake. Finally." This is a trick," Ethan stammered. "You faked it. You're crazy. See? He's crazy." The bathroom door opened. Mr. Henderson stepped out. He was holding a video camera. "Actually," Henderson said, "he is perfectly sane, and this entire interaction has been recorded. It will be submitted to the court tomorrow as evidence of your intent to exploit a vulnerable senior." "Lawyer?" Mom whispered. Her face went gray. "You came in here," Grandpa pointed at Mom, "and the first thing you asked was if I signed anything." He pointed at Ethan. "And you tried to rob me while I was in a hospital bed." "We were just worried," Mom tried to pivot. "Save it," Grandpa barked. "Henderson, give them the papers." Henderson handed Ethan a thick envelope. "What is this?" Ethan asked, his hands shaking. "An eviction notice," Henderson said cheerfully. "For the house. You have 30 days to vacate. Since you haven't been paying rent, or rather, since you've been stealing the rent money Lauren sent, you have no tenant rights." "You can't evict us!" Ethan screamed. "It's my house. I grew up there. It's my house, Grandpa said, and I'm giving it to the only person who actually took care of it. He looked at me. Lauren. Mom looked at me with pure venom. You did this. You poisoned him against us. You did this to yourselves, I said, stepping next to Grandpa. I just turned on the lights. Get out, Grandpa said, before I call security, and this time I won't stop them from throwing you out. Ethan threw the papers on the floor. Fine, keep your stupid house. I don't need you people. I'm going to win in court. I'll prove you're incompetent. He stormed out. Mom looked at Grandpa one last time, waiting for him to soften, waiting for the just kidding. Go with your son, Sylvia, Grandpa said softly, turning his back on her. He's all you have left. Mom let out a sob and ran after Ethan. The door closed. The room was quiet. Grandpa sat back down on the bed and let out a long sigh. He looked older now, the adrenaline fading. That was hard, he admitted. I know, I said, taking his hand, but it was necessary. Is it over? He asked. Not yet, I said, picking up the eviction papers from the floor. Ethan won't give up. He's going to take us to court. He's going to try to burn it all down. I looked at Henderson. We need to be ready for the final hearing, the financial audit. We are, Henderson said. But Lauren, there's one more thing you should know about E&S Ventures. I found the other partner. Other partner? I frowned. I thought it was just Ethan and Sylvia. No, Henderson said grimly. There's a third signature on the incorporation papers, someone who helped them set up the fake company. He showed me the name. My blood ran cold. It was Brent, my ex-husband, the man who walked out on me and Lily 5 years ago. They're working with him? I whispered. It seems, Henderson said. Ethan promised him a cut of the inheritance if he helped hide the money. The betrayal wasn't just deep, it was bottomless. Okay, I said, my voice hardening into diamond. Bring him too. Let's take them all down. Here is the continuation of the story, from part 9 to part 12. The morning of the hearing, the sky over Seattle was a slate-gray bruise. It felt fitting. I wasn't just going to court to fight for a house or money. I was going to court to fight for my father's dignity and my daughter's future. I dressed in my armor, a navy blue power suit, heels sharp enough to puncture a tire, and my hair pulled back tight. No loose strands, no chaos. I looked in the mirror and didn't see the woman who used to cry in her car because her mother criticized her weight. I saw a CEO going into a hostile takeover. You ready, kid? Grandpa Arthur asked. He was wearing his vintage charcoal suit, the one he hadn't worn since my grandmother's funeral. He looked frail, yes, but his eyes were clear. I'm ready if you are, I said, adjusting his tie. Let's go bury them, he muttered. We arrived at the King County Superior Court. Mr. Henderson met us in the lobby, flanking Grandpa like a bodyguard. He carried a briefcase that looked heavy enough to sink a ship. That briefcase held the forensic accounting of E&S Ventures. It held the truth. But as we walked toward courtroom 4B, my steps faltered. Standing near the double doors, whispering with Ethan and Mom, was a man I hadn't seen in 5 years. He was taller than I remembered, heavier, but he still had that charming, lopsided grin that used to make my knees weak before it started making my stomach turn. Brent, my ex-husband, Lily's father. The man who walked out on us when Lily was 2 because fatherhood was cramping his style. The man who hadn't paid a dime in child support in 3 years because he claimed he was finding himself in Bali. He was wearing a suit that was too tight, looking serious and concerned. Ethan said something to him, and Brent nodded, patting Ethan on the back like they were old war buddies. My blood ran cold. Then it boiled. "Don't look at him," Henderson whispered near my ear. "He is a distraction. That is his only purpose. He is a prop." I forced myself to keep walking. As we passed them, Brent looked up. "Hey, Lauren," he said. His voice was casual, like we were bumping into each other at a coffee shop, not a competency hearing for my father. "You look tense." "Brent," I acknowledged, not breaking stride. "I'm just here to support the family," he called out after me. "Ethan reached out, told me what's been happening. I'm really worried about Lily." I stopped. I couldn't help it. I turned slowly. "You haven't seen Lily in 4 years, Brent. You don't get to be worried." "Well," he smirked, glancing at Mom, who was looking at me with triumph, "that's what the judge is here to decide, isn't it? If her mother is unstable, maybe her father needs to step in." I felt the air leave the hallway. That was the play. They promised him custody, or at least the threat of it, to get him on their side. Ethan knew my biggest fear wasn't losing money, it was losing her. "Save it for the judge," Grandpa growled, pushing me gently toward the doors. We entered the courtroom. It smelled of old wood and floor wax. The air was sterile. The hearing began. Ethan's lawyer, a sweaty man with an ill-fitting suit named Mr. Poulos, started his opening statement. It was a work of fiction that would have made Stephen King jealous. "Your Honor," Poulos droned, "we are here to save Arthur Miller. He is being manipulated by his daughter, Lauren, who has isolated him from his loving family. She has cut off funds for his wife, Sylvia. She has exhibited erratic behavior, including online harassment of her brother. We have an affidavit here from Mr. Brent Davis, the father of her child, testifying to her history of emotional instability." I sat there, stone-faced. Under the table, my hands were clenched so tight, my nails were digging into my palms. Instability, that was their favorite word. A woman who sets boundaries is difficult. A woman who fights back is unstable. Then it was Ethan's turn to take the stand. He played the part of the concerned son perfectly. He even squeezed out a fake tear. "I just want Dad to be safe," Ethan sniffled. "Lauren has him thinking we're stealing from him. She's paranoid. She even canceled the credit card Mom uses for groceries. Who does that to their own mother?" The judge, a stern woman named Judge Vance, looked over her glasses at me. "Is this true, Miss Miller? Did you cancel the household cards?" Mr. Henderson stood up. "We will address that in our cross-examination, Your Honor. But first, I would like to ask Mr. Ethan Miller a few questions about his own finances." Ethan stiffened. "Objection!" Poulos shot up. "Relevance. This is a competency hearing for Arthur Miller." "It goes to the motivation of the petitioners," Henderson said smoothly. "If the petitioners are financially destitute and seeking control of a multi-million-dollar estate, that is highly relevant." "Overruled," Judge Vance said. "Proceed." Henderson walked to the podium. He didn't look at his notes. He looked straight at Ethan. "Mr. Miller, are you currently employed?" "I'm an entrepreneur," Ethan stammered. "I have several ventures." "Ventures," Henderson repeated. "Interesting choice of word. Would one of those ventures happen to be a company called E&S Ventures, LLC?" Ethan's face went pale. He looked at Mom in the gallery. Mom was chewing her lip, her eyes wide. I don't recall every LLC I've opened," Ethan lied. "Let me refresh your memory." Henderson pulled a document from his briefcase. "This is the incorporation paper for E&S Ventures. It lists 3 partners, yourself, Sylvia Miller, and Mr. Brent Davis." He pointed to the back of the room where Brent was sitting. Brent slumped in his seat. And are you aware, Henderson continued, his voice rising slightly, that this company has been receiving $2,800 a month from your sister, Lauren Miller, for the past 4 years, payments she believed were for a mortgage on her father's home? It was rent, Ethan blurted out. We were managing the property. The property is owned by the Arthur Miller Trust, Henderson snapped. You have no legal right to collect rent on it. And furthermore, where did that money go? Did it go to property taxes? Repairs? Henderson slammed a stack of papers on the table. Or did it go to the Golden Palace online casino, DraftKings, and a Porsche dealership? The courtroom went silent. Judge Vance picked up the papers Henderson had submitted. She flipped through them, her eyebrows climbing higher with every page. Mr. Miller, the judge said, her voice icy, did you set up a shell company to defraud your sister while living in your father's house rent-free? It's a misunderstanding, Ethan cried, sweat beading on his forehead. Lauren knew. She wanted to help us. I did not, I spoke up. I couldn't help it. I thought I was keeping a roof over my parents' heads. I didn't know I was funding his poker habit. And Mr. Davis? Henderson turned to look at Brent. Is he a real estate expert? Or did you just need a third signature to open the business bank account because your credit score was too low? Ethan didn't answer. He looked like he was about to vomit. No further questions, Henderson said, walking back to our table. I looked at Ethan. He was crumbling. The loving son mask had slipped, revealing the desperate grifter underneath. But we weren't done. We still had to deal with Mom, and we had to drop the final hammer. The air in the courtroom had shifted. It was no longer a hearing about Grandpa's mind. It was a crime scene investigation into Ethan's greed. But Mom, Sylvia, wasn't going down without a fight. She was the matriarch of manipulation, and she had one card left to play, the victim. Polos called her to the stand. She walked up slowly, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. She looked smaller, older. It was a performance, I knew, but it was effective. Mrs. Miller, Polos asked gently, did you intend to defraud your daughter? Heavens no, Mom sobbed. We are a family. We share everything. Lauren makes so much money. She's very successful. We just assumed she wouldn't mind helping her brother get back on his feet. We didn't tell her the specifics because, well, she can be very judgmental about money. We were trying to keep the peace. So you took $130,000 to keep the peace? Judge Vance interrupted. Mom froze. Your Honor, it sounds like a lot, but over 4 years, life is expensive. Mrs. Miller, the judge leaned forward. You filed a petition claiming your husband is incompetent. You claimed he cannot manage his finances. Yet the evidence shows his trust is perfectly managed, while you and your son have engaged in what looks prima facie like wire fraud and embezzlement. I was protecting him, Mom cried, her voice turning shrill. Arthur is old. He doesn't understand. I understand perfectly, a voice boomed from our table. Grandpa stood up. He didn't ask for permission. He simply rose, leaning on his cane, and looked at his wife of 45 years. Your Honor, Grandpa said, may I speak? Polos tried to object, but Judge Vance silenced him with a wave. Go ahead, Mr. Miller. Grandpa walked to the center of the room. He didn't go to the witness stand. He stood in the well of the court between me and them. I built a company from dirt, Grandpa said. I know a thief when I see one, and it breaks my heart that the thieves are wearing my last name. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It wasn't a legal document. It was a letter. Sylvia, he said, looking at Mom, do you remember our anniversary 3 years ago? You told me you lost your diamond earrings, the ones I bought you for our 30th. You said the cleaner stole them. Mom went pale. Arthur, why bring that up now? I found the pawn shop ticket, Grandpa said, in Ethan's room. He stole them, and you knew. You helped him cover it up so I wouldn't kick him out. That's a lie, Ethan shouted from the table. And then, Grandpa continued, ignoring him, you told me the roof needed repairs. $15,000. I signed the check, but no roofers ever came, did they? The silence was deafening. I have been playing the fool, Grandpa said, his voice cracking slightly with emotion, because I didn't want to admit that my wife and son were vultures picking at my bones before I was even dead. But when you hurt Lily, when you let him hurt that little girl, I woke up. He turned to the judge. Your Honor, I am of sound mind. I have executed a new directive for my trust. My daughter Lauren is the sole trustee, and as of this morning, I have instructed my counsel to file a criminal referral to the district attorney regarding the funds misappropriated by E&S Ventures. Criminal referral? Brent shouted from the back. He stood up, panic all over his face. Whoa, hold on. I didn't know about any of this. I just signed a paper. I'm out of here. Brent turned and bolted for the door. The bailiff stepped in front of him. Sit down, sir. This is a circus, Judge Vance said, slamming her gavel. Petition for conservatorship is denied with prejudice. Mr. Miller is clearly competent. She turned her gaze to Ethan and Mom. Furthermore, based on the evidence of financial impropriety presented today, I am freezing all assets associated with Ethan Miller, Sylvia Miller, and this E&S Ventures. I am forwarding the transcript of this hearing to the District Attorney's Office for investigation into elder abuse and fraud. You can't do that, Mom screamed. We have nowhere to go. You're making us homeless. You have 30 days to vacate Mr. Miller's residence, the judge said, closing the file. I suggest you use that time to find a lawyer, a criminal defense lawyer. Court is adjourned. The gavel bang sounded like a gunshot. Ethan slumped forward, putting his head in his hands. Mom stared at Grandpa, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. I stood up. I felt lighter than air. I walked over to the plaintiff's table. Ethan looked up at me. His eyes were red, filled with hate. You happy now? He spat. You destroyed your own family. No, Ethan, I said calmly. I saved the parts of the family worth saving. You destroyed yourself. I looked at Brent, who was arguing with the bailiff. And tell your partner, I said, loud enough for Brent to hear, that if he ever tries to contact me or Lily again, I will add a restraining order to his list of problems. Enjoy the audit, boys. I took Grandpa's arm. Let's go get some lunch, Dad. I'm buying. Steak? Grandpa said, a small smile returning to his face. I want a big, rare steak. We walked out of the courtroom, leaving the chaos behind us. As the doors swung shut, I heard Mom wailing my name. I didn't turn back, not even a flinch. The bridge wasn't just burned, I had nuked it from orbit, and the view from the other side was beautiful. The next 30 days were a blur of activity, but this time it was the good kind, the taking back control kind. The eviction notice was served the day after the hearing. The sheriff's department handled it because of the threat level. I didn't go to watch. I didn't need to see them dragging their boxes out. I had moved past the need for visual revenge. The knowledge that justice was being served was enough. However, the reality of their situation hit them hard. Without my mortgage payments, the cash flow for E&S Ventures dried up instantly. Ethan's car was repossessed 3 days later. I saw it on a tow truck when I was driving past their favorite bar. He had been trying to hide it there. Mom tried to contact me every single day. She used different numbers. She sent emails from new accounts. Subject, please, Lauren. It's raining. Subject, I'm your mother. How can you sleep at night? Subject, Ethan is sick. He needs help. I set up a filter. All emails containing their names went straight to a folder marked Evidence, then archived. I never read them. Mr. Henderson called me 2 weeks later with an update on the criminal investigation. The district attorney is interested, Henderson said, especially because of the forged signature on the loan application. That's federal wire fraud. Ethan is looking at real time, likely 3 to 5 years if he doesn't take a plea. And Mom? I asked. The question still caught in my throat. She's claiming ignorance, Henderson sighed. She's throwing Ethan under the bus, saying he tricked her into signing everything. It's ugly, Lauren. They are eating each other alive. And Brent? He flipped immediately, Henderson laughed. He gave the police everything in exchange for immunity. He admitted the plan was to declare Arthur incompetent, seize the trust, and then use the money to pay off Ethan's gambling debts and buy Brent a condo. He's singing like a canary. I felt a wave of nausea. They had planned it all out. My ex-husband and my brother, dividing up my father's life's work like spoils of war. Let them sing, I said, as long as they stay away from us. The day the 30-day eviction notice expired, I finally went to the house. I brought a locksmith. The driveway was empty. The Lexus was gone. Mom had likely sold it or hidden it. There was a pile of trash bags on the curb, remnants of things they couldn't carry. I walked up the steps to the porch where I used to play as a child. The front door was unlocked. Of course. I pushed it open. The house was a wreck. Not destroyed, but stripped. The TV was gone, the artwork was gone, even the curtains were missing from the living room. They had looted the place on their way out. Classy, I whispered. I walked into the dining room. The table, the one where Grandpa slammed his ring, was still there. It was too heavy for them to move. I ran my finger over the dent in the wood. It was still there, a scar of the battle we won. Ma'am? The locksmith called from the door. You want these rekeyed? Change them all, I said. Deadbolts, smart locks, the works. And I want cameras installed on every corner. As I was supervising the work, a beat-up sedan pulled into the driveway. My stomach tightened. The car door opened, and Mom stepped out. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled. She wasn't the real housewife wannabe anymore. She was just a tired, defeated old woman. She walked up the driveway, stopping at the foot of the stairs. She didn't come up. She knew better. Lauren, she said. Her voice was hoarse. Sylvia, I replied. I couldn't call her Mom. Not here, not now. We are staying at a Motel 6, she said, looking at the ground. Ethan ran off. He took the last of the cash and left me there. I don't know where he is. I didn't say anything. I have nowhere to go. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. Real tears this time. This is my home, Lauren. I raised you here. You watched my daughter scream in pain in this house and you rolled your eyes, I said. My voice was steady, devoid of anger, just filled with a hollow sadness. You chose your favorite child, and now you're reaping the harvest of that choice. He abandoned me, she wailed. My son abandoned me. I know how that feels, I said. You abandoned me years ago. You just didn't leave the house to do it. Please, she begged, taking a step forward. Just let me stay in the guest room. I'll cook, I'll clean, I won't ask for money. I don't want to be alone. I looked at the locksmith, who was awkwardly pretending to examine a hinge. I looked back at her. This was the test, the final test. If I let her in, the cycle starts again. The guilt trips, the manipulation, the gaslighting. No, I said. The word hung in the air. "I will pay for 1 month at an apartment," I said. "A studio. I will have the check sent to the motel. After that, you are on your own. You have Social Security. You have your jewelry, if Ethan didn't steal it all. Figure it out." "You are heartless," she screamed, her face twisting into that familiar mask of rage. "You are a cold, ungrateful bitch." "Get off my property," I said, "or I'm pressing charges for trespassing, and I think you have enough legal trouble right now." She stared at me for a long moment, hating me with every fiber of her being, because I was the mirror showing her exactly who she was. Then she turned around, got back in her beat-up car, and drove away. I watched her go. I waited until the car disappeared around the corner. Then I sat down on the porch steps and cried. I cried for the mother I wanted, not the one I had. I cried for the brother I used to play tag with before the world twisted him. But they were clean tears, cleansing rain. "All done, ma'am," the locksmith said gently. "Here are your new keys. No one gets in unless you let them." I took the keys. They felt heavy, solid. "Thank you," I said. I locked the door. The click of the deadbolt was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. 1 year later. The smell of vanilla and raspberry filled the kitchen. My kitchen. Well, technically it was Grandpa's house, but we had made it ours. I had sold my condo and moved in with him. We renovated the whole place. The dark, heavy curtains Mom loved were gone, replaced by sheer white linen that let the sunlight pour in. The walls were painted a soft sage green. The bad energy was scrubbed out with sage, soap, and a lot of laughter. "Mom, is it ready?" Lily shouted from the living room. "Almost. Patience, Grasshopper," I called back. Lily was 11 today. She was different now. The shy, anxious girl who hid behind my legs was gone. She was taking karate lessons, Grandpa's idea. She was playing the piano like a prodigy. She walked with her head high. And Grandpa? He was thriving. Freed from the stress of Mom and Ethan, his health had rebounded. He puttered around the garden, growing tomatoes that he guarded with his life. He taught Lily how to play chess. He was the father to her that Brent never was, and the father to me that I had missed for so long. As for the others, Ethan took a plea deal, 18 months for wire fraud. He was currently sitting in a minimum security facility in Spokane. He sent me letters asking for commissary money. I returned them unopened. Mom was living in a small apartment downtown. She worked part-time at a department store perfume counter. We didn't talk. Sometimes I heard from extended family that she told everyone I stole her inheritance, but nobody really listened to her anymore. The truth has a way of silencing the noise. Brent disappeared again, probably to scam another woman in another state. But he signed away his parental rights in exchange for me not suing him for the back child support and the fraud. Lily was legally solely mine. I finished frosting the cake. It wasn't a galaxy this time. It was a music note, a treble clef made of black fondant on a white background. Simple, elegant, just what Lily wanted. I carried it into the dining room. The table was set. Friends were there, Sarah and her daughter, a few of Lily's schoolmates, and Mr. Henderson, who had become an honorary uncle. "Happy birthday to you," we sang. Grandpa sat at the head of the table, beaming. He looked at me and winked. I placed the cake in front of Lily. 11 candles flickered. For a split second, a memory flashed. The smash, the scream, the cruelty. My heart skipped a beat. Trauma has an echo. But then Lily looked up at me. Her eyes were bright. Her smile was genuine. There was no fear there. "Make a wish, baby," I whispered. Lily closed her eyes. She took a deep breath, and she blew out the candles. The smoke curled up, smelling of wax and sugar. Everyone clapped. "Did you wish for a pony?" Grandpa asked. No, Lily giggled. I wished that we could have pizza for dinner too. Done, I laughed. Pizza is on the way. As the kids ran off to play in the backyard, I stepped out onto the porch with a glass of lemonade. Grandpa followed me. We looked out at the garden. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the hydrangeas. You did good, kid, Grandpa said, leaning on the railing. We did good, I corrected him. I couldn't have done it without you, Dad. You had it in you the whole time, he said. You just needed a reason to fight. Lily was your reason. She is my everything, I said. You know, Grandpa mused, people think family is blood. It's not. Blood just makes you related. Love, respect, loyalty, that makes you family. We pruned the dead branches, Lauren. Now the tree can grow. I took a sip of my lemonade. It was tart and sweet. I thought about the woman I was a year ago. Scared, pleasing, a doormat. That woman was gone. In her place was a protector, a provider, a survivor. I looked at my phone. A notification popped up from YouTube. My channel, where I started sharing baking tips and life advice, had just hit 100,000 subscribers. People resonated with my story. They resonated with the idea that you can start over, that you can say no. I smiled. Hey, Dad? Yeah? I think I'm going to write a book. About what? About baking, I grinned, and maybe a chapter on how to spot a toxic narcissist before they smash your cake. Grandpa laughed, a deep belly laugh that shook his frame. I'd buy the first copy. The sun dipped below the horizon. The air was cool. Inside, my daughter was laughing. Beside me, my father was safe. The war was over, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving, I was living. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If this story inspired you, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell.